So, what if I told you that our entire view of the planet is, well, fundamentally backward? That we're so focused on the little bits of land we live on, we completely miss the main character in our world's story. Okay, let's get into it. You've probably heard this one before, right? It sounds super deep and mysterious. It kind of paints the ocean as this vast, unknown final frontier, a place we just barely understand. Well, here's the thing. According to oceanographer Helen Zursky, that popular idea is, and this is her exact phrase, damaging nonsense. And figuring out why it's nonsense is really the first step to understanding the real power of our planet. So, how can a simple little phrase be so damaging? Well, think about it. Every time we repeat it, we're basically making the deep ocean sound like the moon. Dead, empty, and millions of miles away. Let's just break this down for a second. The moon? It was visited by a grand total of 12 people decades ago who brought back a few rocks. The deep ocean, on the other hand, is this incredibly rich, dynamic, living environment that is studied all the time by thousands of scientists. I mean, it's not even a fair comparison. So look, this isn't just about being a stickler for facts. When we think of the ocean as some mysterious void, we miss what it's actually doing. And the truth is way more complex and honestly, a million times more important to our everyday lives. Okay, so if the ocean isn't an empty void, then what is it? We need a new way to think about it. So picture this, a powerful, constantly running engine. Let's call it the Great Blue Machine. Yeah, the ocean is not just the blue stuff on a map that fills in the gaps between the continents. It is a dynamic engine. It's constantly moving, circulating heat, shipping nutrients around the globe, and it directly controls what happens on land. It's not just sitting there, it's profoundly active. Want to hear a crazy example? Ancient Egypt. We always think of it as this great desert civilization, right? But its entire existence was only possible because of the ocean. Water evaporated from the Indian Ocean, clouds carried it hundreds of miles, it rained down over the Ethiopian highlands, and all that water created the Nile River's annual life-giving floods. The ocean's engine literally built a civilization for people who had probably never even seen the sea. Now, this engine doesn't just shape history, it is actively protecting our present. Especially when we talk about climate change, the ocean is playing this critical and mostly invisible role as our planet's climate shield.
Here's a really great way to think about climate change. Our planet is basically building up too much energy. Imagine it's a bathtub with the faucet running. We've clogged up the drain with greenhouse gases, so the water level, which is the planet's total energy, just keeps rising and rising.
So that leads to a really important question. With all this extra energy, all this excess heat trapped in our planetary system, where is it all going? The answer, and I mean this, is absolutely staggering. More than 90%, let that sink in, more than 90% of all the extra heat from global warming has been soaked up by the ocean. Not the air, not the land. The ocean has taken almost the entire hit for us, shielding us from what would have been way, way more dramatic temperature changes. And it's not just heat. The ocean has been doing us another huge favor. It's also absorbed about a quarter of all the extra carbon dioxide we've been pumping out. It's literally doing double duty as our planet's great protector. But all this incredible protection, well, it doesn't come for free. The ocean is paying a very heavy price, and the consequences are starting to mess with the fundamental workings of the blue machine itself. There are two really big problems. First, as the surface water gets warmer, it stops mixing with the cold, deep water. It basically creates a lid on the ocean, trapping all the nutrients down in the dark where they can't feed the life at the surface. Second, all that CO2 it's absorbing is causing ocean acidification, which is changing the water's chemistry and making it harder for tiny creatures at the bottom of the food web to even build their shells. So why does a sick ocean matter to you, even if you live 1,000 miles from a coast? Because our weather, our food, our stable climate, it all depends on that blue engine running smoothly. When you start messing with the very base of the biggest food web on the planet, it has massive ripple effects for billions of people. We're tampering with our planet's #1 life support system. So all of this really points to one inescapable conclusion. We have got to fundamentally rethink our relationship with our own planet. We need to start seeing the world for what it actually is. We tend to focus on the things in the ocean, the fish, the plastic, the ships. But this quote just nails it. The water, how it's moving, this dynamic engine, that is the story to start from. The water itself, the engine, that's the main character. For way too long, our maps, our stories, our whole perspective has been land-centric. But we live on an ocean planet. That famous blue marble photo showed us that all the way back in 1972, and it's about time our thinking finally caught up. We are all inhabitants of a great blue world. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought to chew on. Are we really living on a planet of land that just happens to have some water in between? Or are we actually living in a vast ocean world that just happens to have some really big islands on it?